What's up guys? On today's video we are doing an interior walk around of my 4Runner. Now I can't say I have the best or most extravagant interior, but I feel that I've done enough to warrant a video on this topic. Now with that said, we're going to drive out to a location where we're hopefully not disturbing anybody so I can shoot this video. So let's hop into it. So I am now on location. It's a little bit windy here, so I really hope that that's not destroying the audio quality. But I think what we're going to end up doing for this walk around is I'm going to start off at the front of the car and we're going to work our way towards the back. The front has a bunch of small little modifications to it that aren't necessarily the most interesting, but I think a lot of you guys still have wanted to see that. And once I'm done with that, I'm gonna move on to the trunk, which is where I have all the really cool things that I know a lot of you guys are gonna want to see. Okay, yeah, I'm in the car now. I don't know if you guys can hear, but the wind is absolutely howling outside and it's freezing out there. So I hope it's not too dark in the car because I do have about 15% window tint all around the entire vehicle. But I'm gonna keep the windows closed for now just because of how loud it is outside. And then I'm going to show you guys what I have in the front of the car. So in the front, like I said, I don't have too much. There's only about 3 things that I even want to talk about up here. So I have the switches, I have the rear view mirror, and also the head unit. But each of these has their own unique little features that I kind of wanted to go over. So this is probably one of my favorite little interior mini mods. This is an Asdome PG18S, I believe the model is. I'll link it down in the description below. But the cool thing about this mirror is that it functions as both a front and rear facing dash cam. So while I'm driving, it's always recording the front and the rear of the vehicle, and it's really cool for liability reasons, say if I were to ever get into an accident, because I'll always have this recording to save my butt. Now I can either leave the display off or I can turn the car on like this, and I can use the rear facing dash cam, or I can go ahead and turn that off if I just want to use it like a normal mirror. But another reason this is one of my favorite modifications is because of the way I mounted the rear facing camera. I actually 3D printed my own mount, which I'll go ahead and show you in a second. Okay, I'm outside of the car again. I hope it's not too windy, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what I'm talking about in the rear. So I actually took the factory key cylinder out, and the reason I did that is because my old one broke a long time ago. It was sitting around, flopping around at the bottom of the rear hatch, not doing anything, and I didn't feel like fixing that, so I decided it would be a great idea to mount a rear-facing flush camera. Now, I am back in the interior again. You'll notice it's really quite a simple setup that I have going on here, and I've always wanted to keep everything in here, and the reason I did that is because I really don't like having all sorts of little gadgets all over the place like I know a lot of people do. So the next thing I'm going to go over is the switch setup I have over here. You'll notice I have about 5 switches over here. The first one, this bumper light bar switch, I actually don't use this because I've tied all of my high beam lights straight into the factory switch, and I tied all the lights into this switch so that way I'm not fiddling around reaching for other switches, turning them all one by one. The next switch is this track off switch. Since I have a 2001 with traction control, as many of you know, when you lift the vehicle, the ABS starts going nuts when you're going around a sharp turn. So I installed this switch. I got it from Timmy the Toolman, and I can turn off the traction control whenever I want, and the vehicle isn't freaking out while I'm driving. And the last 3 switches, these are switches that I use all the time when I'm off-road. I have the air compressor switch, and then I have a switch dedicated to both the front and the rear locker. So there's not really much to that, and I'm going to move on to the next part of this walk around. Now this next part here is the heart of this vehicle. This is what's controlling all of the crazy stuff I have going on in the rear with the subwoofers and all the speakers and all that fun stuff. So this here is a Pioneer DMH 1770 NEX. I'll try to put a link for that down in the description in case you guys are looking into buying one, but this fits our 3rd gen 4Runners perfectly. The cool thing about this one, unlike the last one I had, is it has all the fun features like your Google Maps, Spotify, Apple CarPlay of course, and of course Bluetooth functionality, which is a must in today's era. I will say that since this doesn't have a knob like my really old one from a decade ago used to have, it did take some getting used to with the volume buttons here, but after having it for a couple of weeks, I did in fact get used to that. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I kind of wish that it did have a physical volume knob that I could turn. Now with that, we are finally going to move to the rear of the vehicle, which is where we have all the really fun stuff. By the way, if you guys have a saggy rear hatch door, this is a must-have mod for you guys, but I replaced the rear struts with these aftermarket ones that I got on Amazon. I forget the company, I'll link those down in the description too, but these things are super strong and it will take your chin off if you're not careful when the hatch is coming up. So this is what we've got going on in the rear. We have the fridge set up, the battery, the full drawer system, and we also have a custom subwoofer box with a JL audio subwoofer. So this is something that you can buy on the Snowbound Customs website, both the sub box and the drawer, and then I'm going to go over the fridge setup and the battery I have over here. So this sub box here is specifically designed for the 3rd gen 4Runner, but I will say if you guys are choosing either this sub box or any other sub box in the market, I highly recommend getting a quality subwoofer. I used to have two 10-inch kickers in here before, and this JL 10W1 V3 hits harder than both of those combined, along with also having better audio quality. So I'm going to give you guys a quick little demo of that. I don't want to get copyrighted, so hopefully that doesn't happen, but I do want to play some music for you guys. Hopefully the audio clip came out okay. I'm not really sure because I haven't been able to listen to it yet, but we're gonna move on with this interior tour. Now the next thing I'm gonna show you guys is the drawers. So these drawers are specifically built to be integrated with the subwoofer. So as you can tell, there is a slot cut out right here so that way the subwoofer fits seamlessly with the drawers. These have really high quality locking latches on them. I think these cost like 40 bucks a piece, but I have this drawer currently filled with all of my recovery gear. Actually, not all of it, that's a lie. Usually I'll also bring a jack and the various few other things. So what I have in here right now, I always keep these in my car, but in this box I have a spare CV axle, gloves, all of my basic tools are in this. I usually always bring an impact with me and a spare battery as well. And this right here is the newest addition to the team. I don't know if you guys saw my last videos on Instagram where we were using just a basic tow rope to pull people out, but I realized that that is a great way to destroy a rig. So this here is a Spartan recovery rope. There's also a few other things in here, including soft shackles that they sent out to me. But guys, I cannot stress enough how important it is to have a kinetic recovery rope. A kinetic rope, unlike your traditional rope, actually stretches when you're pulling on something, so you're not going to have any of those hard jolts that you would have typically when using a traditional tow rope. These things will stretch out, store all of the energy, and once it gets to a certain point, it's going to release all of that energy and give a nice, hard, but smooth pull to the vehicle you're pulling out. The owner of the company that makes these ropes is actually a fellow Toyota enthusiast. He is a 4th gen 4Runner that's really nicely built, and I love supporting small local companies like this one. So if you guys haven't checked these ropes out, I highly recommend taking a look at what they have to offer. So these drawers actually come standard with 100-pound slides, but if you guys want more heavy-duty slides, of course, I can get that going for you too. We also can add about 250-pound slides, but I find that 100-pound slides is plenty enough for all of the gear that I keep in here. Oops, gotta tuck that in. Now you'll notice with the drawer system, I actually had this side cut significantly lower than the full-size drawer on the driver's side of the vehicle, and the reason I did that was so I can install a fridge. I chose this fridge from Set Power because the company has really great high-quality fridges for a relatively affordable price. Also, this particular model is the AJ30, and I chose this one because they sell these really nice heavy-duty slides for the fridge. So the fridge slides all the way out, and it has just enough clearance when you open it all the way up so that it's not touching the rear window or the hatch in any way. So it fits perfectly with this setup. I know there's also a lot of other fridges on the market, and there's also considerably larger fridges sold by both this company and other companies, but I like this small one because it still gives me space in the car for other things, and it's still able to hold a lot of stuff. I can't really show you how much stuff it holds because it's not filled all the way up, but right now I have a few water bottles and soda cans, and there's still plenty more room to spare in there. Now, since this is an actual working fridge and not just a cooler that you stick ice in, it does need to be powered. You can fully power it running off of your car, but when you turn your car off, the fridge is also going to turn off, and I don't want it draining the battery by leaving it on while the car is off. And that's why I also have a battery to go along with it. So this battery right here is a 500-watt battery by Jackery, and the really nice thing about this company is that it is also affordable, so it's within price range of the everyday user, and it's also able to power the fridge for a relatively long period of time. So I've done various tests with this, and it was able to power the fridge for about 3 days in somewhat cold conditions, and it was also able to keep the fridge powered for about 24 hours when I left it in a hot car, so the car was about 120 degrees for an extended period of time parked outside all day long. You'll notice I just click this button here to turn on these ports over here, and this is connected to the fridge, so all we have to do is plug it in, and voila, we have power to our fridge. Also, I forgot to mention, but this is probably important, all of my tests that I have done, I have had the fridge in max mode. mode. So it actually has two modes. It has an eco mode and a max mode. I've always left it in max mode, so it's going to consume a considerable amount of more power. As you can see right now in max mode, it's consuming about 30 watts of power. And of course, it's not going to be consuming that 30 watts of power all the time. It's going to turn on for a bit, and once it reaches its operating temperature, it's going to turn off until it decides that it needs to turn back on again. So usually I'll keep that battery tucked over behind the fridge out of the way. I just took it out here for demonstration purposes. And then finally moving on to this side of the vehicle. And then the last thing I wanted to show you guys with the drawers is that over here we have this hinged cover that comes all the way up. So inside you can store all sorts of little goodies, say if you have extra recovery gear, snacks, anything else you might want to keep in there. And these B3 Customs drawers, of course, were designed so that you have full access to this power outlet over here. If you have full-size drawers, there'll be a slightly larger cutout, so that way you can access this panel over here. And if you have the hinged drawers and you need to access this cubby over here, all you have to do, lift up the drawer, and then you have access to your cubby. Now, I completely forgot to mention this, but the amplifier for the speaker is currently mounted under the driver's side seat. So this is a JBL 600 watt amplifier. I'm gonna link the exact one that I'm using down below, but this is more than enough for the subwoofer that I have in the rear of this vehicle. And the last thing I'm gonna show you guys is a product of my own that I've been working on recently. So this down here is an accessory panel mount for the front of the vehicle. This was just version 1. I have a new version that's coming in soon, and it's fully powder coated. I will be selling this on my website, and the reason I'm making this is so you can mount a fire extinguisher such as this one. And I am doing that because recently at the Haru car show that I was at, I saw a vehicle catch fire, and that vehicle probably would have been toast if nobody there had a fire extinguisher. That is just another essential piece of equipment in your car. I highly recommend having a fire extinguisher, and I do recommend having it mounted under the seat in the front because this gives you the quickest, easiest access to it. And no, the fire extinguisher is not going to be in the way of your feet. When it's mounted right here, generally your feet are up in this area over here, and it comes nowhere near that. I've seen people mount fire extinguishers in the rear of their vehicle, but I don't necessarily recommend doing this because if it's an urgent situation and it's in the rear, buried under a bunch of gear, then it's gonna be really hard to access. So that is it for the walk around today. If you guys still have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments down below. And I know a lot of you guys have been really wanting to see me wheel, and trust me, I've been wanting to see that too, but I've been doing quite a few things to this vehicle. You may have seen these on Instagram, adding the new links, reinforcements, new skids, rock sliders, all of those goodies. But in a few weeks here, we're gonna be going out to Slick Rock, and then soon the Rubicon, once some of the snow melts off. So hopefully I'm gonna be having some fire content for you guys soon, and I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video.